Today on the guest list, we're talking to Hanson.
Tell everybody what they can expect and why they should check out the Red, Green, Blue World Tour.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a brand new album that's coming out. So we'll be featuring music as well as a live show. Mm-hmm. And, for the whole world, we've all been, pretty isolated, not nearly as many tours. I mean, for us, we haven't had a major tour since pre-pandemic. And it's just really an exciting time to get out there and be together with fans for the first time in over 2 years.
I mean, this tour basically has been in the making for the last 2 years. It was in effect supposed to happen in 2020. So we are stoked to have the opportunity to see everybody live in person, not to mention have a new record as well.
I think part of the thing is for us, we're celebrating being a band for 3 decades. And we think this is a great moment for everybody to come together and share in all that great music that we're really proud of. And also hear kind of what we've been working on for the last year with this new album.
I love that. And tell us about how your live performances are different from what people would have heard just listening to you on the radio or YouTube or wherever they're listening to your music.
I mean, honestly, since early on, live music has been super important to us. And one of the ways we've made sure that the live experience as a band is important is that no night's the same. I mean, you always have a certain set you put together, have songs that are anchor songs for special tours. But really the idea is that each night, you're changing things up, you're incorporating new covers. The connection between the audience is really about that relationship that people know you're not walking out there to just, knock down the same 20 songs because frankly, the thing that makes it exciting for us is that we're sharing something that's different every night. Every experience is different. And now, I mean, with 7 albums plus this is 8, and that's just not even including live special projects or Christmas records or anything. Yeah, exactly. So every night you're trying to say, wow, we have, over 100 plus songs we could be pulling from and no night's the same. I mean, that's what it's all about.
And it's about responding to the audience too. I mean, part of that changing every night thing is, wait a second, what does this crowd feel like they need right now? Maybe we need to kind of be receptive and be willing to change it up. And that's a huge part of that, personal experience that you have with people.
And I think that plays to the fact that Hanson audiences usually are very active a part of the show. That's maybe the thing that makes it so unique. It's not just us performing. It's the way that fans sing along and the energy that they bring that really makes it a moment we're sharing, which makes each night special.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now talk to me a little bit more about the album, the new album in general, because I read that you guys each wrote a third of it. That's kind of cool. And if so, how different is each third? How does that play?
Well, it's an interesting creative experiment in a lot of ways. I mean, I think when you've been a band for 30 years, you got to figure out ways to both kind of keep things different and fresh and stretch your muscles all at the same time, like kind of doing that, hey, we're so people know where you're coming from and where you're going kind of thing. And for us, this was a creative experiment. We've said, since we hit 25 years as a band, hey, we've got to kind of check things off the bucket list and do new things. We did a symphony tour in 2018 and 2019 and doing stuff now with this project. I think it's about saying, hey, we each have kind of unique creative skills and liberties in part of this record. And so you just allow each other to kind of stretch those creative muscles while still at the same time being willing to kind of be the band that you've always been, but just kind of, I don't know, letting, maybe I'm not describing it all.
Let's back up. So the new album is called Red, Green, Blue. Those colors, they do form a color format, which is something that people use to make every single color. And that's kind of the way we look at our band. It's 3 different unique voices coming together to make the sound of Hanson. But at this point in our career, we felt like one of the coolest stories we could talk about is the different inspiration. Though we've grown up together, we're brothers, we listen to a lot of the same records and artists growing up, we come to it in our own unique way. And I think for this process, when we decided to record it, it was not so much, Taylor, here's the drum beat I hear for your song, but it's, Taylor, what would you like to hear? And am I the right person to play that part? And I think it really changes the philosophy behind the records. It still sounds very much, I think, at its core like Hanson because of our vocals and the way we sing together and the way we write. But there is a flavor to each part of the album that I think will speak to different fans. And I think it will affect the way people listen to all of our catalog, looking back at all our old records and kind of understanding a little bit more where each sound is coming from, and to some smaller extent, what brother is probably kind of pushing that process left or right or up or down.
One of the cool things about this project is, it through the look of the artwork, through the colors, and through it clearly defines this trifecta in multiple different ways. You see that it's this joining of three different voices, and for me, going back to sort of the part that I would play, and each one of us have a different kind of take on this, is the unique thing and the most important thing about writing songs to me is that the fact that you're creating this connection with somebody. Your music makes people feel like they're not alone, and frankly, we've felt very alone. The whole world has experienced this isolation scenario, and so I love the fact that with this album, there's all kinds of different themes and people talking about this idea of how music is reminding you of your own humanity. And the show is like no other way that you can express that connection better than coming together and standing across and finally getting to stand alongside a friend or somebody new and sing to something. It makes you feel like you're a part of something again. So I think all the songs on this record are, in a way, each of us are reaching out with our creative voice and saying like this is what I want to say to you right now, not in some other scenario, right now in 2022. You're alive, you're well, this is fresh, this is exciting, this is what we want to share with you.
That's wonderful. Now, it's nuts that you guys have been performing for 30 years together. What memories do you guys have from the beginning? Because thinking about that you were 11, 9, and 6 is what I read. That's insane. How do you even look back at that very, very early time of Hanson?
Yeah, it is really interesting to look back. We were so very young, and the truth is, there's a lot of it where it's almost not a choice. It's sort of like we came into the world and we began singing and playing, and it was just very natural.
Especially for Zach, we drug him along the whole way.
Music has been a part of our lives, and it's almost like another lifetime. I mean, the beginning really is just like, I'm almost, a couple years off 40. I have to stop saying that too early, but
I'm 41.
I'm on the brink. I'm 39 in March, but the idea of when you were 7 or 8 or 12, that is another lifetime for everybody. It's another person, but to have been doing something with continuity like music through that, it is kind of cool because we have these songs and these eras, these albums, these tours that are like chapters of that life. And in so many ways, the surprise kind of gift that we have being relatively young in life and having this great history is that we have shared that with a lot of people. Some have been there the entire time. And then we have fans, now we look sometimes at a show and you see somebody in the front row or several rows back and you go, wow, that person is younger than our first record. That person is younger than our third record. And,
but they're still connecting.
That person is my child. Wait, no. But I think that this idea that history just gets better. The more you have, the richer it gets. And I think really that's a lot of what we're expressing now with this year is, hey, we have so much to pull from. Not only are we going to go out and reflect on that, but we're going to continue to add things to the story.
Yeah, I love that. And talk about, because in that 30 years, you already mentioned you guys have done so many different albums, so many different songs to choose from. Is it like choosing your favorite kid? Do you have any song that sticks out as like, I loved when I wrote that song, when I first played that song, playing any of them, do they stick out as like, this is my favorite?
Well, I have to say personally for me right now, more so I think than ever. And I think probably some of it has to do with kind of pandemic isolation stuff. Some of it has to do with not playing nearly as many shows and things like that. I am really excited about this current record, the Red, Green, Blue record, and how that's going to affect not only kind of creating a unique show because of the nature of the kind of the story we're telling with the record, but also just the kind of freshness of being really, we finished this record up just right at the end of this last year. So it's very fresh on everybody's mind and we're really excited about sharing it. Besides that, there's so many songs. It really is hard to pick. There's a song called "A Song to Sing" off our second record, which I love. There's "Underneath" I love. There's a lot of songs.
Well, different songs for different experiences too. Songs that you want to play, those songs you both mentioned are ballads that are sort of meaningful. But the great thing about live music is also just the joy. Like you just celebration. You get to host a party with a live show. And so there's certain songs that just work. You walk out there and you go, well, that wasn't even a single, but it's a live experience kind of a show. And that's one of the fun things that you can't get anywhere else except for by going out there and being on stage and sharing that with an audience.
Well, certain songs take you to certain places. Like I think about the song Tonight, which was the last song in our String Theory project that we played with symphonies all over the world. And when you play that song, you're sort of flooded with all the emotions of doing that project. And I think about the places we were, we played that for the first time in Columbus, right? And kind of you're brought back to that place. Or there's a song called Man from Milwaukee off our first record, which every time we're in Milwaukee, we have to play Man from Milwaukee, and the audience goes crazy just because it has this connection to place and obviously to time. And I think that's something for us. This tour, the Red, Green, Blue tour, will take us to like almost 100 different cities over the year. And
around the world.
Yeah, it's all over the world. Yeah. And there's so many places with memories connected to music that we are excited to go get to relive and share again with fans.
Yeah, that's going to be such an awesome experience. And obviously, 30 years later, you're married, you have kids. Are they going to be touring with you? Are they interested in pursuing music? Are they fans of your music? What is that like?
I don't know about fans of our music. I think no, I'm just kidding.
They're all ranges. I mean, now obviously very different. Everybody has kids of different ages. I'm the oldest kids.
And the youngest.
And I guess technically, our youngest is barely, very close in age, but so different levels. I mean, for sure, there's some very creative, definitely some musicians. And we all kind of figure out that balance differently. And you share it with your family. And at the same time, there's, crazy experiences where we're going to be in 3 countries in 4 days. So you're probably not going to want to do that. But I think the spirit, I will say this, I know one thing is true of all of us. Our kids have definitely seen that we all express a real conviction for working hard for something you care about. And they've definitely, all the cousins have seen that we've all been very dedicated. And, yes, it's rock and roll. And yes, it is an incredibly cool thing and job to be able to do, but it has not come easy. It's not just showing up and being a rock star. It's really kind of a blue collar gig to be a musician and a touring artist. You get out there and you can't delegate anything, that is that you can't be like, oh, I'll pass it to my, support person. Like, no, that's you. You got to do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And as a creative person, you've got to show up every day and continue to be dedicated to it. So that's, I know the biggest thing I hope my kids see is just the fact that, it takes whatever it is, it's going to take work, but it's worth it if you get to do something that you care about. So.
No, I love that answer of hard work. It's so important for kids to hear that. And I loved your guys' documentary, Strong Enough to Break, because you see that time in your life that you guys really had to dedicate yourselves and work hard and overcome struggles. Talk about that a little bit, because you think from the outside, and somebody talks about, oh, Hanson, it's like, oh, they're Hanson. They've got all this stuff that's just come so easy. But it seems like from your journey, it hasn't all been the top of the mountain, Oh
my gosh. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things you have to learn as an artist is to be okay with starting over. Right? It's reinventing yourself. And of course, the creative process of starting with nothing and ending the day with a song kind of teaches you a little bit about that. But the truth is, this isn't one career that's lasted 30 years. It's a series of choices. Every time you go back to it and you say, okay, new album, you're recommitting yourself to the process and to being a band and to being a band at a new age and a new time, right? The things that we're having to deal with now as fathers of, I have 5 kids, Taylor has 7, Isaac has 3, right? That's totally different than what we were doing during this Strong Enough to Break time period on our 3rd album in 2003.
Can you imagine having kids during that period?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And so you can't approach it in just the same way. You have to take that history and all those choices and all those experiences and then bring them into the new version of yourself. And I think our music is that way too. When we look at the projects that we want to do and how we go forward, it's not how do we make a Hanson album? It's how do we make the next album that will be called Hanson right now, and that might include different interesting people, different artists that want to play on it, that you want to bring in, or people you write with, or even the place that you record in. Like, I want to go in that studio I've never been to. we recorded our last album before this in Muscle Shoals in Alabama, the legendary famed studios. You're like, that is a moment and a sound and a feeling I want to include in my story. And the same is true of what we're doing now. It's sort of, I want to include new people and kind of new experiences in the way I make music. And that will show people more about who we are as a band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like that. And talking about, comparing and growing over the course of 30 years. I mean, there aren't many bands where one of their first songs was just such a juggernaut of a hit. Talk about MMMBop, because it was a #1 single in 27 countries simultaneously. Talk about making that, but then also moving on from it, because I'm sure that's been quite a journey.
Well, I mean, one of the great benefits we have, a gift that we've been given, is the fact that we were the authors of the things that have been most successful. We were young. We did have some incredible co-writers that we worked with on that album, that first record. But up until then, we'd never written a song with another person. We'd always been writers, players, in many cases, even producers before we were, old enough to drive.
We knew what that meant.
And so I think, the fact that MMMBop was so successful and it carried on, that allowed it to not be something that we had to abandon, that had to be somebody else's idea. And it could be something that we took pride in. We were nominated for Grammys. I mean, Zach, his age, when he was nominated as a songwriter, he's the youngest Grammy nominated songwriter ever. And I don't think that's been beat yet. I don't know for sure, but at the time it was. And so I think this idea that you are an author, I think is such a big deal. Yeah. And frankly, have more appreciation. I mean, many singles have followed. You're proud of other singles that have been released and, kind of represent periods, like songs like Penny and Me from our third record on our indie record release when we launched the label, or This Time Around, or If Only, or these other songs. But they all carry meaning. And MMMBop is still something we're proud of because it was our voice, frankly, it was an incredibly pop song, hooky, but it was still a song where we were talking about themes that we're talking about today, which is, you kind of have to invest in and put your heart into things you care about, because, you don't control everybody and everything that's going to happen. You kind of have to take that leap and hold on to the things that matter and frankly, plant some seeds, because they're not all going to grow into beautiful flowers.
Exactly.
Some of them are going to be, that's a
dandelions.
How'd that get in there?
Exactly.
So it's a song that has continued to be sort of evergreen, and I think definitely something we're proud of. It's a part of the story, and it's not the end of the story. That's what's cool.
I think for me too, to kind of pick up on that point, the last kind of big tour that we did was for this album called String Theory, and it was a show and an album. So the show and the album are exactly the same. And of course, the live experience was honestly a next level experience
with
for
an
me
orchestra
personally. With an orchestra and the whole 9 yards. But for me, I will honestly say, so MMMBop is in that show. It's early in the show, and we do it in this kind of more broken down way. And the beginning of it starts off in a more melancholy way, and that was because of the lyrics in that first verse in particular. And every single night, there was not a single night that I did not get choked up singing that song, because when it comes to the line, so hold on to the ones that really care, because in the end, they'll be the only ones there. There's something about that and kind of what that song has brought with us, for the last 25, and as a band, 30 years, you have a lot that goes with it. And there is real pride and real kind of comfort in knowing that things like that can last and can connect with people in a significant way that allows for them to grow and change with you along the way.
Yeah, that's so cool. And talk about that a little bit as authors of a song like this, because I read that it originally had a slower tempo, was meant to be in the background. Talk about how not only that song changed but that probably happens with a lot of your songwriting, I'd assume.
Mm-hmm. Well, every song, you have what you write, and then you have the final arrangement. We just made this new record, this 3 sort of records in one, where we worked with great writer and producer Jim Scott and David Garza, both who bring something different to the table. Yeah. Every one of those songs, was not exactly in the recording, is not exactly what it was when it was written. And that's part of the process. And I think the fact that the song was much deeper in a way than the final recording actually allows it, I think, to live on. because you can take, it became this great collaboration between Stephen Laroni and the Dust Brothers and us as a kind of a garage band where you've got this hooky arrangement that's the drum loops and stuff.
And distorted, arpeggiated guitar.
But when you strip everything back, it still carries. And in fact, our, the label that we started, which has essentially been a platform for us to release music after, since 2003, it's called Three Car Garage because there's three of us and it takes us back to the garage. It's sort of, the measure is sort of, it comes out of somewhere humble. And almost any good song, if it's good, you should be able to step back and just play it with a guitar or play it with a keyboard, and it still carries. And I think that's really kind of the weight and the thing that is you're most proud of, because it actually has to stand the test of time.
And I think it does also articulate it in examples like String Theory, where you do reinterpret songs over the course of a 25-year career. And you have an opportunity to kind of give them certain new elements and new melodic kind of hooks and things, and for it to still be the song itself, but then reinterpreted like Mbop or like Where's the Love or This Time Around or countless other songs. You're able to kind of, those songs work in new interpretations, hopefully, because the melodies and the sentiment of the song, make sense.
Yeah, I like that. And one of the things, obviously, that MMMBop led to, which was outside of music, MHOPS. We cannot not talk about MHOPS. Tell us about your guys' love for beer, because that also led to you guys doing the Hop Jam Beer and Music Festival. I mean, a lot of really fun collaborations there.
Well, I mean, the Hop Jam and the Hops Beer definitely is an extension of, we've had the experience really being entrepreneurs. I mean, we've been artists, but whether they know it or not, if you're a musician, you're an entrepreneur. Like, you have to be a startup. You have your own startup, and
you're your own product and your own marketing.
Exactly. It's like you're a vacuum salesman and you're the vacuum. But I think that
hopefully you don't suck too bad.
Oh yeah. Well,
anyway,
let's moving swiftly on. The idea of different entrepreneurial endeavors to me has been interesting, because the principles are the same as when you go and build an audience with a band. You're finding who your people are. You're excited about something that you believe in, that you want to share with them. And then you're trying to put something together that's really good. And craft beer is a great kind of, our generation has sort of been, stepping into wanting to see local craft beer, come back, and it has. And of course, the natural extension is we learned, how to launch a little beer outfit. And of course, music is something we knew and know well. And we got our team together and put together an event that made those two things, sort of shine at a high level. So it's been really cool to just kind of combine passions, really.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting. A lot of people, I don't think, associate a band as entrepreneurs, but that's such a good idea. What do you think could be a lesson that you guys have learned as kind of entrepreneurs, your own kind of band, your own kind of business owners, that other people trying to come up with ideas, start their own businesses? What do you think they could learn from your guys' journey?
Well, how long is this conversation supposed to be?
Exactly. I mean,
there's so many things.
I think being a band is a lot like those, kind of business opportunities in some capacity. I mean, first of all, the thing I think that makes the music unique in particular is that you are, in some sense or another, the product you're selling. And we don't really you don't really want to think about it too much that way, because it's a little bit of a tricky thing, because it's very personal. I mean, you're really kind of sharing yourself and telling stories and writing poems and putting them to music and really trying to connect people, with the heart of who you are and connect to their heart in some capacity.
But I think going back to the start of things, I mean, we started so young, not because we were so clever or just because we wanted to be famous, but because we felt we had something to put into the world. Like, it was who we are. We love to sing. We could harmonize. People responded to it. And frankly, we had the drive, interest in doing it. And it, I think the idea of any business or any creative idea, any entrepreneurial endeavor, is sort of back to, do you have something that's going to make the world a little bit better? Do you have a problem? Are you solving a problem? Are you adding something valuable that's not just sitting right there, or doing something better than what had been done before? And so in that sense, there's a lot of similarities, but more than anything, the connection to music for me, I would say, and we've talked about this before, it starts with this idea that you have to know who you are. Like, you can't sell a Ford, Model T without understanding how that car is designed and works and competes with every other car that was ever made up to that point. He had a vision you can't, design the first personal computer without having a sense of how it competes and how it adds up and what it is. It can't be kind of nebulous. Like, it's kind of pretty cool. Like, so the sense of being an artist, you got to have a lot of guts to say, these 3 minutes are, going to move you, And so I think the sense of like cultivating something and sense of self and being willing to kind of stick to it is a huge, process that is, it's kind of painful, but we spend our whole life in that process of just trying things and failing and succeeding and failing and doing a little bit of both.
Our producer friend David Garza, who worked with us on this Red, Green, Blue album, he often would say things like, "We're saving lives," when he was talking about editing songs and kind of and working through the structure of music, because he's saying, look, you're taking someone's life, you're taking 3 minutes of their life, and you're asking them to spend those 3 minutes with you. It better all be worth it.
And if you give them back 5 seconds, you multiply that by 1,000, that's a lot of minutes they get back in their life.
Exactly. So making sure that you take that care and that respect for both the person listening as well as the craft that you're working on, I think that matters. And the other thing I would say too is, you have to be willing to put in the time, as Tay said, but I think you got to look at it like, am I willing to spend 5 years, 3 to 5 years on this idea, on this goal? Because it's not going to happen overnight. And you might get lucky and it might happen overnight. But guess what? You're going to learn the things you were going to have to learn in those 3 to 5 years in the hot seat, whether you like it or not. If you have that big success, you're going to have to, be really quick on your feet. So that 3 to 5 years is still going to matter no matter what you're doing.
Great answers. Sorry, were you going to say something, Isaac?
No. I was just realizing it could keep going. I'm like, no, gonna stop.
And no.
Just a couple more questions, I promise. As part of that entrepreneurship angle, a lot of giving back is such a big part of business. And one thing I read that you guys have done a lot with Africa with poverty and HIV/AIDS relief. Are there certain causes you guys are particularly passionate about now? And why was that such an important cause for you guys?
Well, I mean, so back in 2006, we began a journey which led to a program called Take the Walk. And that's, one of the things that we saw early on was, of course, music galvanizes people, but we really we'd never drawn the two things right next to each other and said, hey, support this cause.
Yeah.
But we saw very personally that the conversations, especially, talking about HIV/AIDS and that impact in the US versus places in the developing world, that there's a connectivity to that being something that has affected our generation in a huge way. But when you combine it with extreme poverty, it really was, devastating. The idea of people born with that disease because they don't have anything to say about it. And so we really had a very personal experience. We went to Africa, visited with some doctors, visited with some partners, and that led to something that was really powerful, where our message wasn't really about, hey, we have this perfect idea and, there's lots of things you can do to make a difference in the world. But our real kind of approach to Take the Walk, which is the campaign, is really about how you can take your time, your energy to make a real impact. It's not about waiting. It's not about one day you'll make money and give back. Yeah. And so we directly raise money for building schools, drilling clean water wells, buying medicine for women that have HIV that can help not transmit that disease to their unborn child. All these layers.
Also
Tom's
giving shoes. Yeah, Tom's shoes.
Yeah, Tom's Shoes at the time was just launching, and we began a partnership with them and sought them out and said, hey, we have this vision of doing these events. And we did these, launched this program of 1 mile walks where we walk barefoot to connect with
We actually
poverty.
invited them on the road to sell shoes at the shows.
Yeah.
So that was a whole other thing. But also, I think for me, the most important thing about the Take the Walk campaign, as Taylor, you were saying, is we said, look, if you show up, the folks that we're talking about helping are living on $1 a day. So we're going to give $1 for every single person that comes and walks a mile in the shoes of other people, or should we say the lack of shoes. And so we would do 1 mile barefoot walks. We'd say, look, this is scary, but you got to take your shoes off. Why? Because it's about experiencing what these folks that we're helping are experiencing. It's about living your life in their shoes in some capacity.
Just a moment.
For just a moment, and understand your ability to have a positive impact on the world. Because if this 1 mile walk is the equivalent of their daily salary, think about the value and the importance of your actions and of your dollars and of your time and of your ability to have a positive effect on the world. And so I always feel like, you can't ask people to do things you're not willing to do yourself. And we did a lot of 1 mile barefoot walks. And that's really, I think, the most important thing is being willing to put in the time and take your shoes off and get your feet dirty.
We that campaign, obviously has evolved in the needs. We've met a lot of needs, and thankfully that overall conversation has big impacts have been made in the last 15 years on those issues.
Yeah.
The huge way to go, of course, poverty will always be an issue. But one thing I think we took away, I will say, one, you can always, using what you have to impact the world, using your actual talents, is really an inspiring idea and something that we could take to heart. Not doing it just over on the side, but saying, hey, I'm a carpenter, I'm a builder, I'm a musician, I have a voice. What are ways you can take what your giftings are and your influence and point it towards something positive and empowering people to get that message? And we saw that very, very, very first person. We saw people choose to give time, and that's a really inspiring thing. And all the way back to music, it reminds you that, you've got something that only you can contribute. And to give it, just kind of giving it your all, making it something that goes, hey, I'm going to sort of honor this opportunity. I was given some kind of talent to do this in the world. I'm going to throw down. I'm going to give my best to it, and trying to leave things just a little bit better than they were when you showed up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna toot Taylor's horn for just 1 second though, because one of the things also that I know directly came from those 1 mile barefoot walks is Taylor's got an organization called Food on the Move, and he spent years working with food desert communities where there's not a lot of grocery store options and things like that, not a lot of healthy food. And Taylor's been diving in and year out for the last few years, trying to say, how do we apply the kind of ideas and the kind of vision that the Take the Walk campaign was talking about, and how do I put it to work in my local community? Because here's the deal: solutions and problems are married in some sense by the proximity. You have to start locally, and you have to be willing to put in the time and the day-to-day work, because the best place that you can have impact is in the place you live every day, whether it's the community just down the road or whether it's right in your immediate sphere of influence. But the sphere of influence is crucial. It's crucially important. And Taylor has been diving in and really doing great work as in some sense as an extension of where we started in 2007.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's anybody that's interested. Food on the Move is a very relevant and an amazing thing that's built, and now it's taken on a whole life of its own. So
that's wonderful. Kudos to you guys. Well, I appreciate everything. Is there anything that you guys think I've missed for your upcoming tour or album? Anything that you guys want to discuss before we wrap up?
We've said a lot. People can always go to Hanson.net. Anything you want to find out about our world, Hanson World. I mean, Hanson, we're here today in large part because we've been, had an incredible fan community that stayed connected to us all over the world. And Hanson.net is the community and where you can find out about everything that's going on.
If you're interested in what we're doing, new single Child at Heart comes out in February on the 11th. Another single for Green comes out on March 11th. It's called Write You Song. And then on the 15th in April is Don't Let Me Down, which is the third single.
It's on tax day, but it's not taxing.
Yeah, no, it's untaxing.
It's a very untaxing song. Yeah. It's very motivating. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. And the album comes out in May. So.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully see you out there.
You guys are great. One final question real quick before we wrap. I read, Isaac, that you met your wife, Nikki, after spotting her at a concert. Is that true? Because if so, that seems like the most unbelievable thing to happen if you decide to go see your favorite band in concert.
Yeah. Well, I think
the first thing is we weren't her favorite band.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And actually, it is kind of true.
He had to win her over.
I had to win her over. Yeah. But I mean, yes, we actually met all of our wives in some capacity or another while on the road. And I guess you could call that either a perk of the job or a environmental hazard, depending on whose perspective it is. Our wives would probably say environmental hazard. So anyway, but they signed up for this, so it's their own fault.
I've heard that most people meet their mate at work or something associated with work. So it sort of makes sense.
Exactly.
Touring all over the place, and you come across someone that you just can't be denied.
Yeah.
And you say, I'm not leaving until you come with me.
Exactly. So yeah, I met her on September 19th, 2003 in New Orleans.
Wow, that's a lot of information.
Yeah. And it was a,
Do you
it
know
was
the
a very-
time?
Well, it would have been around 9 or 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So
Yes, things happen. Crazy things happen.
yeah.
You guys are hysterical. Thank you so much. This was a blast. I really appreciate all your time. I know you've had a long day of interviews, but this is going to be terrific. So again, thanks for everything and congrats on all your success.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.